Hello everyone, this is Misha Houston, and I'm here to do my review for the haves and the have-nots. Tonight's episode was entitled, A Woman Under the Stairs, and it was definitely a very good episode. It was very entertaining, and I have to say, by the end of the episode, I was shocked. I was absolutely shocked. And that is exactly what I like to see from Tyler Perry. He's really stepping up his game with this one. And I'm very much looking forward to the next episode. Absolutely. It was wonderful. Absolutely wonderful, and I enjoyed it. Thank you so much, Tyler Perry. The first group of people we go to is Veronica and Justin. Now, back at the hospital, Veronica comes up the stairs and asks Justin, "So you're married?" Justin asks her how is she doing, trying to avoid her questions. She says that she is slightly nauseous right now. And Justin says, "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Why?" She says, I am sick because of what I have just heard. Justin asks her, "What did you hear?" Playing this back and forth game with each other. Veronica asks him, "So are we going to play this game?" And apparently that's exactly what they're doing. Justin says, "I don't know what you're talking about." Veronica says, "I'm pretty sure you do know what I'm talking about." He lies and says, "No, I don't know what you're talking about." Then she asks him, "Are you having problems with your short-term memory now?" And Justin tells her, "No, I do not have any problems with my memory. My memory is just fine." Veronica asks him, "So you don't remember having a conversation with my son Justin right here only a few moments ago on the stairs?" And Justin says, "Oh yeah, I was having a conversation with him, and we were just killing time." Veronica says, "How long have you known my son?" And he says, "Oh, not long." Veronica asks, "How did you meet Jeffrey?" And he says, "At the gym." She asks him, which gym did you meet him at? And then he gets offended and starts asking her questions. He asks her, "What are you talking about? What's with all these questions?" Veronica says, "I'm just giving you time for practice. I've had officers like you on the stand many times before, and they usually get eaten alive. So I thought I might as well give you a chance to get ready." That old evil snake Veronica. Ugh, hate her. Veronica says, "You don't have to answer my questions except the first one." And Justin says, "What are you talking about? I've already answered all your questions." And she said, "Not the first one." Then she starts threatening him again with court. She starts in with her usual threats. And then she asks him again, "Are you married?" And Justin eventually says, "Yes, I am married." And then she asks him, "Does your wife know about your unnatural affections?" He feigns ignorance. And she tells him, "Your perverted interest in my son. Does your wife know about those perverted interests that you have in my son?" And once again, he feigns ignorance. Veronica says that she was looking for him. And she saw him pull Jeffrey into the stairwell. And so she went down a couple of floors down and listened to the conversation. And what she heard shocked and appalled her. What she heard when she was listening to the conversation, eavesdropping, she was shocked and appalled to hear what she heard. She was shocked that you would do this to him. And Justin asked, "What are you talking about?" "Do what to him?" And Veronica says, His future wife is clinging to life, along with my unborn grandchild, and you're dragging him into the stairwell and you're sexually harassing him. Justin stands up and says, I don't know what you're talking about. Have you lost your mind? And she says, no, I haven't. And she knows what she's heard. Justin, tries to interrupt her, but she raises her voice to him and says, you will no longer, if you raise your voice to me again, if you step up in my face again, you will no longer see the nice Veronica. Veronica says there is a bitch behind door number 2, and she is a heart stopper. Ooh, and she certainly is a heart stopper, isn't she? Justin asks her, what do you want from me? And she tells him plainly, I want you to stay away from my son. And if you don't stay away from my son, I'm going to claim sexual harassment. She threatens to go to his boss. She threatens to go to the press and to his wife. She mentions Lizzie Castile and how the killer was a rich white man that got off from the crime, and she tells Justin that you are a rich white officer and you're sexually harassing my son. Justin tries to lie his way out of it, but Veronica is unmoved. She threatens him again to go to his wife. Justin says, you have me way wrong because I'm not gay. Veronica wants to know how long have they been married? And how long have you been keeping this secret from his wife? And then this fool Justin goes and tells her that his wife is the judge on her case. This fool, in that one sentence, has taken away all of the leverage that he had over Veronica. The guy is a fool. I mean, if I could have gotten my hands through my television screen, then I swear to God, Justin would have died from suffocation. I would have killed him if I could. I could not believe that he just let that cat out of the bag. What is wrong with him? He is a fool. I can't believe it. I cannot believe that he did that. I mean, that was the whole point. And he just ruined it for Jeffrey. And he's ruined it for himself too. Because now, with no leverage, she can continue threatening and harassing him. And she's the kind of person that will do that until the end of his life. And I'm just so disappointed that that news has been brought to light. I'm so disappointed. Then Veronica tells Justin that he's going to have his wife removed off the case because her husband is having an affair with my son. Justin threatens her, even pulls out a stun gun or something out on her, but she is completely unmoved. She orders him to not to call Jeffrey, not to text him, not to try to look for him or see him ever again. He says, he smugly says, yes, ma'am, but, that little threat ain't going to go far. I mean, from what I've seen in a preview, they're going to be right back with each other. So, then, after the threats that she makes, she throws it up in Justin's face, saying that Jeffrey has been in love with Wyatt for a long time. She throws it up in his face and he's had enough and he just walks off. Oh my God. I mean, I still cannot believe that he just told her everything. I mean, the boy is an absolute fool. And he just ruined it. He just ruined it. I mean, this was a chance at freedom and he just absolutely ruined it. Oh, I don't even want to talk about this anymore. Let me just move on. The next group of people we go to is David, Jim, and Jeffrey. Jim and David walk toward Jeffrey, and they start asking about Wyatt. Jim he asked him, "Have you seen Wyatt? Do you know if he's okay?" And Jim, starts to automatically assume that he overdosed again. But Jeffrey tells him it's not because of the drugs. He's here for detox and for rehab. Jeffrey tells Jim that Wyatt tried to detox all on his own, but couldn't handle the pain, so he decided to go to the hospital. He also tells Jim that after Wyatt overdosed, it scared him, and he wanted to get himself clean and get his life together. Jim doesn't believe him and believes that Jeffrey talked him into it, but Jeffrey tells him that it was his decision. He made the decision on his own to call for help. Jim asks Jeffrey, where is he? What room is he in? But Jeffrey is reluctant to give out the room number. Jim says that he hasn't seen Wyatt in days. He hasn't seen him in days, in a long time, and he wants to go to see him now. Jeffrey tells Jim that Wyatt is in a fragile state right now. He's trying to get clean. And this time in detox is very sensitive. And he doesn't want him, to get angry or upset. Jim bellows at Jeffrey, saying that he is not his doctor. You don't know anything about this. You are not his doctor. You are not treating him. But Jeffrey says, no, I'm not his doctor. I'm only here to try to protect him. David, intercedes and defends Jim he defends Jim and tells Jeffrey that he's going to find this out anyway, and you're only prolonging this unnecessarily. Jim apologizes and tells him, I know that you love my son, but I love him too, and I'm his father, and I need to know that he's okay. Jeffrey says he is okay, but Jim needs to see it, with his own eyes. Jeffrey eventually tells him that he is in room 323, and Jim apologizes to Jeffrey for yelling at him. He gives him a hug and a kiss, and then he goes to see Wyatt. Then, after Jim leaves, David and Jeffrey start talking. David tells him that you did the right thing in letting Jim go see Wyatt. Jeffrey is afraid that, Jim's presence and Jim's words could set Wyatt back. But David says no matter what, that's still his father, and he still has a right to go see him if he wants. The conversation then turns to Melissa, Veronica, and Quincy. What's his name? Jeffrey says Melissa has become severely depressed, and she is also suicidal. Jeffrey tells David that Veronica drove her there every step of the way. The last straw, the straw that broke the camel's back was her father dying. David says, I knew his father briefly. I knew his father. We had been friends for years. For years with him, and that he knew him, and that he's sorry about the fact that he died. Then David questions him about Quincy. Jeffrey tells David that Quincy was a horrible person. David asks what happened, and Jeffrey explains what happened the night that Quincy died. Jeffrey walked into Candace's house and found him beating her. And then he hit him over the back of the head with a vase. And then Quincy stopped beating her, and then turned his violence onto Jeffrey. And the next thing that he knew, he was Quincy was bleeding on the floor, dying. Jeffrey admits to stabbing him, and Veronica knows all about it. David asks, why did you tell Veronica? But Jeffrey tells him that I never did tell her. She found out the situation about what happened that night all on her own. I mean, we all know that it was Laquita Maxwell, Quincy's sister, is the one who told Veronica. David asked Jeffrey, why didn't you go to the police? But Jeffrey tells him that him and Candace were afraid to go to the police because it would look like cold-blooded murder instead of defense of others. David tells him, you should have come to me. You should have come to me. And then he also complains about him burying him in the backyard. But Jeffrey tells him he didn't want for him to be buried there. But yeah, he didn't want for him to be buried there, but the neighbor had cameras on the door and they couldn't get the body out. I mean, it was such a, I agree with David. I agree with David totally that Jeffrey should have gone directly to him. But, you know how Jeffrey is. He's afraid to open his mouth. He holds it in so long, and he just is terrified of opening his mouth and speaking up and standing up for himself. Jeffrey then tells David that they're both going to court in the morning in the hopes that the body will be thrown out on the grounds of a bad warrant. David tells him that the body will not be thrown out, but then Jeffrey tells him about the warrant and how the warrant was delivered to Candace as the owner of the house, but in actuality, the bank owned the house instead of Candace. David says that if there is nobody, then they are going to be looking for some kind of witness. The only people that know anything about this is Jeffrey, Candace, Veronica, and Benny, and we all know that none of them will say a word. David says, I'm going to get you out of this the best way that I can. David says, just go and get a hotel room, go somewhere and lay low, and I'll give you a call later on. And they both leave. Oh, it's just such a mess. It is just such a mess. I mean, is there anybody on this show, that has had a good time of it, has had an easy time of it? It just seems like it's just one thing after the other. The next group of people we go to is Jim, Wyatt, and Anna. Wyatt is asleep. He has finally fallen asleep, and Anna introduces herself to Jim, saying that she runs the clinic that Wyatt checked himself into. Jim asks her, how is he really doing? And she says that he is strong and that he's giving it his all to try to get clean. Jim wants to be alone with him for a few minutes, but Anna doesn't think that it's a good idea. I mean, they just barely got him to sleep, and she doesn't want Jim to wake Wyatt up. He said he promises that he won't wake him up and he won't agitate him, and she eventually steps outside for a few minutes. Jim pulls out his handkerchief and wipes his brow, and then he kisses him, and then he cries in the handkerchief. He grabs his arm and tells Wyatt, you got this, buddy, you got this, and then he leaves the room. Outside, he apologizes to Anna for having shouted at her and, mistreated her and disrespected her, and then Anna says that he has to want to get clean for himself, and it really seems like he wants to really get clean, and we'll have to see what happens in the next few weeks. Jim says that Wyatt is all he's got left in this world, and Anna gives Jim her business card, and Jim says that he'll call you and exchange numbers, and she thanks him. And he also tells Anna that you have to watch Wyatt. You have to watch him because he can fool. He's really, really good at fooling people into pretending that he's clean. Anna says he's in the best hands and they both walk off. Hopefully this time, as I've said in other videos, hopefully this time he can get clean and stay clean this time. The next group of people we go to is Catherine, Hannah, and Mitch. Hannah is still at Catherine's house and she's still grieving the death of her grandson. Catherine asks how she is and if the pill works. Hannah says, I slept for maybe an hour or two. Kate asks, have you really been up all night? And Hannah says it's okay. Kate invites her into the kitchen so they can have some breakfast. But Hannah, refuses to eat. Kate, was up all night and she was wondering herself, what is she going to say to Hannah, when she wakes up. But the truth is, she says only God, and only the power of God can help her now. Hannah doubts that, she doubts her faith, which is really big for Hannah. But Kate tells her that I know that you're not the person that would ever doubt the power of God. It's just not in you to do that. Hannah confesses that she doesn't even know who she is right now, and Kate understands that completely. Hannah wants to make a phone call to Benny. Hannah, goes into the kitchen. She sits down at the counter and she calls Benny, and Mitch answers Benny's phone. He is in the hotel, he's in the hotel room. He's in the hotel room, and I guess he has the toy. He has Quincy's toy in his hands, and he answers the phone. Hannah tells him that she wants to speak with Benny, but Mitch lies to her and says that he stepped out for a little while. Hannah says, tell me when he gets back, because he needs to talk to him. She needs to talk to him about the funeral arrangements. Hannah says that she couldn't find Benny and that she has to start, all on her own, planning the funeral. Catherine says, since you helped me with Amanda and helped me through that bad time, Catherine says that she will help Hannah all she can. She offers, to pay for the funeral and the casket and all the arrangements. And Hannah wants to say no, which is really ridiculous. She wants to say no, but she eventually says yes, because she has no money to bury him. She has no death insurance. She has no life and death insurance, and she has no money to pay for the casket and the funeral plot. And Catherine tells her, I promise you, I'm going to help you with this. They both exchange thank yous. And Hannah remembers, she starts to remember when Amanda died herself. And she remembers all the questions that they asked Catherine. What's her favorite color? What's her favorite flower? And Hannah asked Catherine, how am I supposed to know a child's favorite flower? She does remember that he liked the color purple. And that was, a very nice nod to the movie Color Purple. And that he also liked toys. Hannah hopes Benny can get his toys. And Catherine says, don't worry about that. I'll call Benny. I'll do all I can for you. Catherine says that she's going to make breakfast. And Hannah says, what? You going to cook? She tries to make a joke. Tries to make a joke saying, oh, you're going to cook, then I'm not going to want that. And then Catherine laughs, and she tells her that your laughter and your humor and your smile will come back in time. And then she goes over to the stove and says, how do I turn this stove on? Another lovely, beautiful scene between Hannah and Catherine. Great scene. The next group of people we go to is Candace, Charles, his daughter Celia, his son Jax, and Heather the babysitter. Candace hears children playing next door and she opens up her door. Then the kids come over and open up their door and they both say hello. They say that, they introduce themselves, and then Charles comes over to the door. Candace introduces herself, and Jax, Charles' son, says that she is pretty. They ask her, do they know their father? And Candace says no, she doesn't. Celia says that he's going to be running for president. And Charles says, don't be bothering the nice lady. Candace compliments the children and says that they're beautiful. Celia asks, are you going to be voting for him? And Candace says, yes, she's going to vote for him. And she says she wishes that she could vote, because if she could vote, she would vote for him. Charles says, you can vote, both of you can vote one day once you get older. It's time for school. It's time for the kids to go to school, and they don't want to go to school, but they have to. Celia says that she misses, she doesn't like being on the road, and that she misses her old school. Heather goes and takes the kids, and they all leave the room. Candace wonders why Charles doesn't have the Secret Service with him to stop the kids from going into a stranger's room, and I wondered that as well. Charles says that he wanted to keep the kids' life as normal as possible. Candace says she's wondering, why is he so cool? Why is he so calm? Why is he so collected? And Charles says he's just a duck on water. I'm calm on top, but underneath my feet are paddling, which apparently they are. Candace tells him to come over. He says he can't, but he eventually agrees to come over. She pretty much goes back into her, I guess, her bossy ways, and pretty much tells him to, get to stripping. And Charles confesses to her that he has been thinking about her all day long, and last night was the most fun that he'd had in a long time. He thinks that she has some hidden recording somewhere, but she confesses that she has nothing on him. She orders him out of his clothes, and he tries to tell her something, but she really doesn't want to hear it. She just wants him out of his clothes, and he starts to take off his clothes. To me, that scene was very awkward, and I didn't quite understand what was going on with it. I didn't understand what his problem was, why he was just letting her get away with this. Now, the next group of people we go to is Benny. I'm assuming that, it was Benny, it was Agent Davis, and I'm assuming that it was a new actor playing Detective Logan. I'm just going to assume that it was just a new actor playing Detective Logan. I could be wrong. I'm not sure about it, but here we go. Benny has been at the station all night, and the cops are telling him that they only brought him in for questioning and that he's not under arrest. They also tell him that they can't legally hold him anymore, and Benny tries to leave. As he's trying to leave, Agent Davis comes in, saying that they must have his DNA. Benny says, I am not going to give you my DNA. You don't have a warrant, I have rights, and you just can't bring me here and try to extract my DNA from me. Agent Davis says that he is a suspected threat to national security and the presidential candidates. And Benny is just looking at him dumbfounded. He doesn't understand what's going on. He tells him that he doesn't know any candidates, and he doesn't know, and he hasn't threatened anyone. The agent tells him, you can either give us your DNA willingly or we can take it from you. The agent, Benny says, no, I am not going to give you my DNA. Absolutely not. And then the agent leaves the room. And Benny is still stuck, in the interrogation room with Detective Logan. And he doesn't know what's going on. And frankly, I don't know either. But then we go to the last scene of the night. And then I started to figure out what was going on. The next group of people we go to, which is the last scene of the night, is Charles, Candace, and the Secret Service. The Secret Service. Candace takes a picture of her and Charles in bed together. And he tells her, you don't really respect me at all, do you? You don't respect me. You don't respect what I'm trying to accomplish here. And you don't respect the presidency. Candace tells him that yes, I do respect the office, but she lets him know that you may be president, you might be the future president, but you're just another human being, just like everyone else. And she says that if you are cut, or if I cut you, you will bleed. And then he says, so you're doing this to try to make me bleed? And Candace tells him, a girl just needs something for a rainy day. Charles tells her that I don't appreciate being blackmailed, or I don't even appreciate the threat of being blackmailed. And she thinks she knows him. But he tells her, you don't know anything about me. You know nothing about me, which is true. Just then, he calls Vincent into the room, and she's asking him, who is Vincent? And then all of a sudden, the Secret Service comes barging into the room with guns blazing. They come in and they tell her that we have reason to believe that you have been working with a counter cell in Syria, and that you were herding Americans to the Middle East for the jihad movement. They say that she is in violation of the Patriot Act. Now, Candace is looking around and wondering what's going on. She doesn't understand this. She just doesn't get it, and she's completely bewildered. And then Charles, that little snake Charles, tells her to look at me. Look at me. And she looks over to him. And then he tells her, you're under arrest. And I am not the motherfucker to play these games with. And that is where the story ends. Oh, that was crazy. That episode was just crazy. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And I was just in complete and total shock. My MVP of the night is Charles. He just dropped a bomb. He dropped bombs like a terrorist. He was the terrorist here. He's trying to set her up with some trumped up charges, but the truth is he was the terrorist in this episode. He dropped bombs. And for a character that I didn't really give a fig about, I mean, he just took my breath away. I couldn't believe it. I was shocked. So for that, he has become my MVP of the episode. Come back next week for the new episode of If Loving You Is Wrong. And the title of the episode will be called Railroad. And I think it's going to be some people getting railroaded in this episode. Come back next week for the new review of the new episode. Make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe if you like my video. And come back next week. Enjoy your life as I do. And have a wonderful, wonderful day. Thank you so very much.